Welcome to Flagship Studios. I'm here with Mahesh Karande, CEO of Omega Therapeutics. Mahesh, tell us about Omega and its approach.
Yeah, first of all, thanks for having me here. This is a terrific opportunity. So Omega Therapeutics is taking the first systematic approach of using mRNA therapeutics as programmable epigenetic medicines. Right? Omega's approach is based on the foundational science that was created by Flagship and our academic founders at the Whitehead Institute. And it is about understanding the architecture and the organization of the human genome, particularly the organization of genes and its regulatory elements in what you can think of as sort of nature's control system for gene regulation. We understand this system, we understand the units of this system, which are insulated genomic domains, which contain single or multiple genes and act as fundamental regulators of the genome. And we have been able to use these as drug targets by targeting very specific sequences within these IGDs that help us create epigenetic changes like nature would to tune genes back to a normal expression. So the premise of this is typically when disease occurs, genes are either overexpressed or underexpressed. And that is because of a structural or functional change in these insulated genomic domains. So simply speaking, what we are able to do is look at those changes in healthy cells and disease cells and bring the disease cell IGDs back to its pristine state by using epigenetics, by using programmable epigenetic medicines. That's what we do at Omega, we have essentially thousands of unique targets within these IGDs that we call epizips that are proprietary to us, that allow us to very specifically and in a controlled fashion tune genes for a certain level of duration depending on the disease back to normal and thereby treat and cure disease.
That's incredible. And I know you've had quite an impressive year. Would you mind just talking a little bit about your achievements to date, especially over the past year?
No, absolutely glad to. Yes, Omega 2022 has been a tremendous year for Omega operationally. I think first and foremost, let me characterize it by saying that, as Omega went public in 2021, we made some commitments, to the street and to the investor community. And it gives me tremendous pleasure that we met every one of those commitments, and not only did we meet them, we actually exceeded some of them, right? So in 2022, first of all, we were able to translate this esoteric science that was really delineated in 2016 into a drug development platform and got our first IND cleared by the FDA. It took us 27 months only to get the IND cleared from scratch.
That's incredible.
Nothing short of targeting c-MYC, which is a holy grail gene in oncology, for hepatocellular carcinoma. So we got that IND cleared in July of 2022. We declared our first patient dosed in November of 2022. We had applied for and we received orphan indication status for hepatocellular carcinoma from the FDA in the US. Additionally, beyond sort of the first program, we declared a development candidate for our potentially second IND in, again, c-MYC for non-small cell lung cancer. And this is a completely different Omega epigenomic controller with the drug, but also is a completely new delivery with a lung targeting LNP, which in many respects is the industry first, right? So we feel pretty good being at the cutting edge of that. We also declared a development candidate ready status for our program in CXCL123 and IL-8, which is targeting a multigenic IGD, which is a franchise by itself. I mean, it can be used in immunological conditions, in inflammatory conditions of the lung, as well as other organs and tissues of the body, as well as cancer. So we have had a tremendous 2022, where we literally met every commitment that we made. I'm sure I'm forgetting some of them, but I really owe it to a phenomenal and a very operationally focused senior management team that we were able to recruit. That's what I was forgetting, actually. We were able to recruit, great leaders to our senior management team, as well as we were able to expand our board.
That's incredible. What amazing progress just in 1 year.
Thank you.
Let's shift a little bit and talk about patients. What does this mean, or what will this mean for patients?
Yeah, I mean, I think, look, at the end of the day, right, we are all in the business to make sure that we bring, really transformative therapies to patients, right? I mean, if you think about what Omega is doing, we are transforming medicine, right, to treat and cure disease for benefit of patients. That's really what drives us. And the medicines that we are bringing to, hoping to bring, to patients eventually, are first in class, right? Nobody has been able to do this before, right? We are true epigenetics. Essentially our drugs offer a potentially much safer alternative just by the way our mechanism works, right? And we are able to go after undruggable targets. I mean, if I step back and I think about our platform and what we are able to do from a science standpoint, we are pretty much able to go after any human genes. Right? So think about the applications of this broadest set of applications, pretty much applicable in every disease area. And if we are able to develop these drugs like we are, now we are in the clinic for the first one, this will mean a completely transformative set of therapies for patients across disease areas, right? And we hope to keep earning that right, to actually test more and more of these in the clinic and eventually bring it to, to the market for patient benefit.
And that's really the beauty of being a platform company like Omega, right?
Absolutely.
Thinking about your employees, they must be incredibly excited and energized by the past year that you've had. Can you talk a little bit about what it's like to be, I think, what you call an Omegan, and what the company culture is like?
Yeah, no, I'm happy to do that. I mean, look, first and foremost, we are about 120 people now, right? So we have scaled the company. When I joined in 2019, we were barely about 20 people. So we've been able to attract some really good talent, and our talent is very sticky. Our turnover rates are less than half of the industry. So that's one. So that tells me that people like to be at Omega, which is, as the CEO of the company, tremendously gratifying for me. So one of the things that, Omega stands for is way early in the life of Omega, very soon after I actually joined, we worked with the entire company and, worked on our values and behaviors. But more importantly, we delineated our ethos, which really drives us, in everything, right? And that ethos is three simple words. It's ambitious, yet humble, right? And the way I think of it is, to succeed in this pioneering journey that we are in, and to bring these unprecedented medicines to patients, to transform unprecedented science into a drug development platform, you need the highest level of ambition, right? To be able to do that. But alongside that, there needs to be a tremendous sense of humility because, look, first and foremost, right, we are not in this alone. We cannot do this alone. There are giants that came before us whose shoulders we are standing. We have to earn the right to test these in patients before we can actually, get approval for a drug. All that requires a tremendous sense of humility and the acceptance that at the end of the day, we are doing this for patients. So, it's sort of this dual motive of ambition and humility, so ambitious and humble, that drives Omega's values. And then based on that, our values, our team loves to call it blazing a trail because it's trust, resilience, authenticity, innovation, and leadership, right? So I think these are our values and we have behaviors, and I think, all Omegans adhere by that. This was created by the team, so it wasn't sort of dictated by, the senior management or me as a CEO. So the whole company and everybody loves to be there. So we have been recognized for our culture by external, companies as well. We've got awards for it. So we feel very, very good about this.
It sounds like you have an employee base that are really aligned around this same sense of purpose, which is so important.
Yeah, I mean, and look, and I can't, as a CEO of the company, take that for granted, right?
No.
Because I think, what happens is, it's all easy when you're small. There's a much more sort of sense of family, etc. I think the big test of the culture really comes when you start scaling up. And I'll tell you, between, going from 25 to 120, I feel pretty good so far. And I'm sure we can scale up to, a much bigger company that eventually Omega has the potential to get to, as long as we keep steady on the ethos and the culture and really drive from there.
Right. And I know you've had quite a busy week. We're here at JPM and at Flagship talking about bigger leaps. So wanted to ask you one last question. What do you see ahead for Omega as its big leaps in the next 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, I mean, I think, look, first and foremost, if I speak very, tactically and operationally, I think in the next 3 to 5 years, we should be having multiple programs in the clinic. We potentially could get our first program approved in hepatocellular carcinoma, right? So that's huge. But if I rise above that and sort of really start thinking at the 30,000-foot level, Omega is a company that has the potential to transform medicine. Mm-hmm. This is the first time that anybody is going, to the true organization of how disease is controlled by nature, or actually how disease doesn't occur because of nature's mechanisms, right? We have figured that out. We have hit upon what we would call the control room of biology, and we are controlling the control room of biology. Mm. The possibilities are endless, mm-hmm. right? I mean, in the next 3 to 5 years, I can just see this being scaled, across multiple therapeutic areas. There is no way we can prosecute all of this alone, right? I see in the future multiple partnerships. I think, going into different therapeutic areas that we can actually translate, this platform and bring drugs to patients. So I think from that standpoint, I see a huge range of opportunities for Omega. And then the third thing that I see is really coming back to people and culture. I see an opportunity to build a transformative company, an iconic company. If you really think about, the iconic companies that we all grew up with, this morning, Nubar spoke to Alex, who runs has been running one of the most iconic companies that we know, right. Johnson & Johnson, right. Which has a tremendous credo and a culture, right? Genentech, which is in the backyard here, right? They created, small molecules, large molecules. And you have companies like even Moderna, which is, a sibling company that sort of pioneered mRNA. And we've seen the success. What we are doing is along that journey, pioneering something at the highest level of biology of the central dogma. We are literally the next thing after, gene editing, where we are not making nucleic acid sequence changes. We are really going after the epigenome, which controls the central dogma. I mean, the possibilities are endless, and the opportunity to build an iconic company in the footsteps of some of these companies, I think in 3 to 5 years, we can be well on our path. So that's what I'm seeing in the next 3 to 5 years, big leaps, bigger leaps. I think Omega is a perfect example of how we can do that.
That's incredible. Well, an amazing year, an employee base that sticks, and a bright future with big ambitions, yet remaining humble. Thank you for joining us today,
Thank
Mahesh.
you very much.
Thank you.
All right.